on any of those days.
Look at what day? The 31st?
The night. I can do that.
A facility they want here or somewhere else?
8/29.
Huh?
So I can probably do the 31st, but I can't do the 29th or 30th. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have anything yet. If something better comes up, I might.
I've got soccer games already on the schedule for the first 2 days.
Libby's
so.
playing volleyball, so varsity and JV and varsity. So if she has a game, I mean,
I hear ya.
yeah. The guest house has a rehab program that is faith-based.
I'm very
Oh my gosh. Oh, Susan, it is doing very well. Very well. It's a very lengthy program.
We're online, and if you could press the button to have a green light at the bottom, and you'll need to talk about 3 inches into it because there's people at home that can't be here, including council members and possible future council members that are listening so they know what's going on and not be left behind. Council, we're going to start with probation with Susan on page 17 and a few pages after that. And you were talking to Bobby and Debbie about name updates.
Corrections.
So as long as they have it,
Yep.
we'll be talking the same thing. It looks like you've added some raises, which we know you're on a matrix. We know that we don't have a choice. I know that Jeremy, I think, has got a big jump because of the matrix. We know that.
Only my officers are on the matrix.
Okay.
My support staff are not.
Right. Got you. Your actual probation officers. Right, got that. We're going to back everything out, correct? Until we find out how much money, knowing that you are mandated. But for, okay. Okay,
The rest of them are set by statute.
okay. And you know what they are, so, okay. We have, the office manager can be backed out for now, but, well, you've got it the same anyway. So you're where we are. D. Smith stays. No, she's the office manager.
Yep.
That's,
And Dee Barber, that was one of the corrections.
yes. Esther is what, because it's mandated. Jeremy is dumb because it's dumb. McKinney is mandated.
The other one is, which is
And
juvenile secretary.
was Spears.
Yes.
And she's,
$1 on our sheet for
Yeah.
some
Well,
reason.
that's not what I submitted. Went up 3%.
The office manager went up $74.
All I can tell you is what I submitted. I don't know. where
I
the
get it, and
figures
unfortunately, I'll see that, see this, so
came. It's confusing.
I don't agree.
So which ones are we backing out for now? The office manager and
So .02,
secretary.
.06, and 0.13.
Yeah, 13, right.
But it's only $76 on our sheet. Just out of curiosity, Susan, what, like the office manager, what was your request?
Find it.
And who's that one?
Danielle Smith, $1,067. That was the 3%.
Okay.
So that took her to,
With her longevity, it took her to 37,243,
do you know how much longevity she had?
600.
So the number's right.
these off of what your budget sheet you turned in. Okay, but he's saying it only shows $1 raise, not 1,000. Right, yeah, but Debbie and I both went over these. Okay, all I've got's what I've got, and it's the amount, the larger amount.
Okay.
Well, that one went up 74, but that's,
So the dollar figure matches. It's just weird because it only shows $74 difference from the budgeted for 22. Okay.
okay,
3% is what the request was.
3 on those, okay. And that's what most people put in, because I think they were told to put in 3% as a placeholder. Okay, we are on the same page.
Okay,
Longevity went down, so I assume that was because of change in staff, or,
change in staff. I think we had a discussion about longevity for probation officers last time, too.
right? So I went down 800. Part-time went up 3675. Bell,
Part-time did not go up. It didn't change, and I didn't use it last year.
we
So
need to
if
do
it went
something
up, it
with
was
that.
because you got it back.
Okay. What we want to do with that?
What was your request for this year?
The same as last year.
The 7,000? Are we looking at 1,001?
Yeah, because it's down on our sheet as 10,675, and that was not,
10,675, $15 per hour,
okay.
times 700 hours.
You know, for some reason, our sheet's showing 7,000 was your last year's budget,
Okay.
and so that's where,
How much is it hourly?
1525.
Okay.
So the 10,675 dollars.
Okay. Bell is mandated by state, Criswell is mandated by state. Benson, we already talked about,
So,
basically backed out.
that's what I was getting ready to ask. Did we do anything with part-time?
I don't know,
Was there
what was
discussion?
Debbie and you talking about? Was it part-time? No?
Is that something that you feel like you need this year, even though you didn't use it last year?
There's,
I feel like I definitely may need it this year. Yeah. Our caseloads and referrals have gone up, so if I don't need it, it'll come right back to you. I'm not going to use it for
Okay.
anything else,
so we
obviously.
keep the 10,675, what you submitted. Okay. Again, Bell's the same mandated, Criswell's the same mandated. We've already talked about Benson that you have down as B. Spears, but the new person is K. Benson. On line 13, we already talked about that. It's pretty much zeroed out on our pager, plus $1. What were you talking about before we started JDA coordinator? I think that's K. Moore.
That's actually Esther Kalen's salary. We don't have a paid JDI coordinator. It's 0. Okay. Kevin Moore's salary.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what you told us, I think, in the
Okay.
work session, was Kevin Morris, who I had written it
Instead of
down.
JDI coordinator, we're going to change the title to adult PA.
Right, right.
And that's K. Moore, okay. So we're good so far?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, and same on office
And
supplies?
she just texted and said she can't see the live stream.
Okay, we'll correct that. Who did? Betsy?
Yes.
Okay. We should be able to correct that. Counseling supplies, still 500, no change. Probation directory, 200, no change. Printing forms, 500, 0 change. Copy paper, 300, no change. Fax paper, 250, no change. You've not used any out of those. Is that just because you haven't needed it for the year? You had supplies
I've been
left from
using
last
grant
year?
money.
Okay.
Try to use that first and give you back whatever I can.
Okay, and computer supplies, 1,000, no change. Page 17B, postage, 1,500, no change. Travel, 6,000, no change. Conference expense, 1,500, no change. Drug testing, 5,000, no change. Communications, no change. Memberships, no change. Computer connections, no change. Office machines, no change. Equipment rental, no change. Overall, what we had that you submitted was an increase of 27,000 or 4.1%. And a few of those have been adjusted. Questions, comments? Chad?
So I really like your idea of considering doing longevity for the probation again. What we're having trouble finding is the cash. And I know, I'm the numbers cruncher. And you're very good about giving back, which you are, and don't get me wrong, I know you do a great job of that. What I'm wondering is, could we find a way to, you said we need about $7,000 to do could we find a way to give forward and cut some of these line items that you don't historically use to possibly find the $7,000 to,
7,600 to be
Yeah.
exact, if we figured correct.
yeah. Could we because I know there's several line items that we have here.
If you'll tell me you'll take it out of part-time and
Well,
use it for that purpose.
I'm only one vote. You understand that, Susan, but what I'm trying to
But I
do
don't
is,
want to lose it
That's why you're proposing.
something else.
I understand, I'm only one vote. I can't promise you, but what I'm asking is if you can help me find it, and then I help try to convince my counterparts here, is there some line items that you could possibly
That would
give
be enough
forward?
to more than cover it.
So if we did this, if we took the part-time down,
7,600 out of there. I mean, leave me something in there if I've got
Yeah.
help in there.
because I know there's several that you do a great job, like drug testing and several of these others that you do grants
I
with.
can't cut those.
I know, but you do grant, because it's like this year, I think you've only spent a few $100s in that all year.
And I guess what I'm saying, Chad, is don't punish me for having grants,
No.
because the second those grants go away, I can't run my office.
I totally get that. You understand what I'm doing, right? As I'm just trying to,
So that's one area, that part-time, that I would
If-
be willing to negotiate
So if
for
we
the
moved
officers.
part-time down to 3,075 and created,
use the mic, please.
Sorry. If we moved part-time to 3,075 and then we took the 7,600 for the matrix, that's.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of
That's great
doing
for
that,
me.
and I appreciate you being willing. I'm trying to figure something out to help you out, and
Is
that's,
there consensus that we could give Susan? I know we're not voting, but could we?
What's the
there other support
long-term
for that idea?
effect? That'll work next year. Is that?
Well, so that-
Extrapolate that out.
that just means next year, it would have to be looked at if she needed to increase that again, then is there some other line item, or is there some other place to pull it? Because once we make the commitment, it is a long-term commitment.
Right.
And I want you guys to understand, too, honestly, I could not operate my office with a staff of 13 people on my county budget only. There's no way.
That's why you have the grant.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You have one more grant that you're still waiting to get is it one more?
The JDI grant, we have not gotten confirmation. Oh, excuse me, the JRAC, we've not gotten. But I think we have a good shot at it, so.
Okay.
Well,
But going forward is what my concern is. You know, if I were to be employed by somebody and they told me they're going to pay me out of a grant, I'd be a nervous wreck, because you never know. They can flip on a dime.
We have a motion, or?
well, we can't really make a vote. We can
Well,
only
it has
take
to be
a
at our meeting.
consensus.
We could ask for consensus.
We can only take a consensus, but, I mean, I appreciate Susan's willingness to look at that, and I'm trying to come up with a way, because she does do a very good job of not, I've looked back at years past, and she's not wrong. She gives back a lot every year, tens of thousands of dollars most years. And so that's why I wanted to ask her if she's willing to give forward, and maybe that's the wrong term, but,
It would mean a lot to my people.
Okay.
so that's
We
what I
mentioned
would
that
like
2 weeks
to
ago.
try to do, and if there's a consensus among my colleagues, I think.
You're the liaison. You the liaison.
Yeah, I'm the liaison.
Your thoughts?
You know that you have my support there, so.
I'm for it.
So I think we take this down, but then we're going to have to add, take the part-time down to $3,075. And then we're going to have to add a line, that longevity line, we need to increase by $7,600. Does that sound appropriate to everyone? Does that sound good? And we do truly appreciate, because you guys do work that frankly I would never want to do. I mean, you guys do an amazing job. I mean, so that was one of my big goals, and you were on my list of things to corner, and I hadn't had a chance yet.
The fact that we've got caseloads
That's
pretty
outrageous.
unmanageable sometimes.
It is. I don't know how you do it. Okay, good. Any other questions for Susan? I think we plugged a hole.
Please don't forget my support staff.
No, the plan is we're coming up with numbers and we're looking, next Wednesday afternoon, possibly following up on the following Monday is when we're going to try to look at raises across the board. I'm just trying to understand why in the world they would have taken your staff off of the longevity like that. It just. Yeah, but I get it. I see some of that, but it's, I mean, it's,
Hopefully this will help with your staff morale a little bit.
It will help. It will help.
Okay, good. Anything else for Susan? Thank you. Kim?
so we only cut that $76, right?
We have the numbers over there? We
We
good?
only cut it $76.
Which line?
Probation.
It's the,
Oh, total
$76.
76.
$76.
As long as it's.
We made a cut, though. We made a cut.
of $76. We can't sleep at night if
But
we
that's the
haven't cut
raises that are
everybody
honestly
something.
gonna come back
At least
later.
$1.
raises, so
We
there's-
can sleep at
there's
nights.
76.
We've done our job.
That's the raises. That's just those 3 raises that will come back later. And
Okay.
I think,
Just adjust them
I
however
can't
you
guarantee because there's some weird things in the works with the city, but that is our absolute goal that we're planning to give everybody raises
Kit
across the
Crane is
board.
on page 16A and 16B, very close to where we were.
Susan has 55 or 56, whatever adult probation, that's probably going to be cut. There's no sense on it, just that their salary.
That's your, one of your grant funds, yeah. I think we don't ever do anything with that. Yeah.
And then we've got the non-reverting for the drug screen observation officers.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So it's okay?
yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't, and it's
Kit's on
salaries,
page
we don't
16.
adjust the salaries that are set.
Okay, on page 16, Kit, that means nothing to you. It's on our 55-page notebook. Your 232 Circuit Court, you put in 3% for your raises.
Support staff and court commissioner.
Right. Judge Pro Tem raised 100. Overtime, we were told to strike it. So there's the savings of 2,500 on line 06. When we met before, he said strike it. Pauper attorney, there's a contract for 82. And you put down 92. So what was the difference between, you told us the actual contract was 82, but there's a buffer for some reason.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure where I've got it on my sheet, but the contract is 82, we're wanting 92. The reason for that is that the attorneys, the pauper attorneys get paid X number of dollars per month.
Okay,
Doesn't matter if they do 100 cases or 1 case or 1,000.
and that's for that purpose?
They get, yeah. Well, calculated in that is that they're not going to spend more than, I'm guessing, like 10 hours on a case. But if it goes to jury trial, they're going to spend a lot more than 10 hours. And so that's why we have that 10,000. And so, obviously, on it, and so that's above. And so that's
Backlog of court cases, I think. Already spent almost this year. Who doesn't see that out of transcripts? And that's because of these. Counsel, if you stop me.
I mean, looking back at that, last year it was in COVID.
And 83. Than you did the order commissioner. Any questions?
Is that just a raise?
out
Out for
until we find out monies we set.
Use the mic. They're trying to a lot of land.
So while topic of the proposed right now, which one of my staff? I was walking in the hall in between hearings in a hurry, and one of my staff asked me, "Are they really thinking about it?" And I told them that my experience and that in the past, to discredit other council, in the past it appeared to be more lip service than what we're hearing this year. Alone, really, that alone that you folks are taking a serious, hard look at it means a lot.
And we sure hope we're going to be able to do better than 3%. If we have enough monies come on the 15th of August, it's going to all go to raises.
Right. I just wanted to add, that's just anecdotal,
well-
one person in office, so.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So what we're on pauper. Okay, 92, we were down to longevity. You've raised 600, so you just have somebody that kicked an extra level up. Judge settlement, you said on the 18th we could cut that.
Yes.
Okay. Office supplies just went up 100. That's inflation. Recording system up 500. Is that because of more cases? Or
I'm sorry.
a recording system 2000.02 went up 500. Is that just
I don't know if that was because of increased caseload or increased trials or just some expense that we had. I couldn't tell you without going back.
you're being honest? Any questions about that?
Well, that's something you haven't spent anything on in the last few years.
Is what?
That line item is one that's the recording system, the
It's been-
2000.02. Yeah, it's been,
Is it the recording supplies?
it's recording system is what it says in our book here.
2000.
How much is it?
It's at 1,500. It was at 1,000, which it has been for several years, but you haven't spent anything in the last 3 years in that line item.
So that's why we were asking. Anything we cut goes to raises. That's why we're going through with a fine tooth comb.
To my, nobody's asked me if we need any money out there at the,
Here's what they're looking at. This is exactly what they're going by, and they're right here, recording system.
Okay.
Right here's where they're at. But that, you can have that, that's what.
all right.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to seeing if we could cut it back to 1,000 since you haven't spent anything out of it. That, I mean, hey, every dollar adds up at this point.
Was Jeff Lutz working on some kind of new piece of equipment at,
Yeah, it's good.
Well,
They're putting recording systems in it there. I don't know if it has anything to do with you, that's why I asked.
it does not, but what they are, well, I think this whole week he's been out at the jail putting in a much improved, not recording, but a video system, much improved, so that if necessary, you know, when the jail was there, I need the inmate here, I need him here now. And 15 minutes, let's go get the person. Well, now that it's out at Ron Lampe Way, that's a good distance away. So I think we've got 2, maybe 3 dedicated rooms out
They're
there
right at the entryway, there's
for-
rooms,
for
attorneys and
transmittal of
back and forth
initial
to
hearings,
courts.
back and
Right.
forth.
Yes.
The recording equipment is at the Justice Center that will record from that video.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no recording system at the jail.
And this is what this is for.
It's just the cost. No, I think that doesn't come out of our budget, so that's something that the jail
Technology.
or technology's taken
Okay.
care of.
So
This
can-
dollar amount, if you want to strike this dollar amount, it's not that much from our standpoint.
Okay.
So if you want to strike it,
Entirely or take it down?
strike it entirely.
Okay,
And-
well,
and-
that helps. More for raises.
And the reason I say that is that, you know, we've got access to some non-mandated funds if we need to.
Okay.
To get between here and the end of the year, so.
Okay, so recording system, we're taking back to zero, say $1,500.
Okay.
Xerox is the same, 1,500. You've used almost 410 so far.
That's probably a lease on the recording or the
Okay.
copy.
It's been averaging a little over 500 per year. Okay. Any questions? Computer supplies up 500 from up to 2,500. That's surely inflation. Trial expense up 1,250. You have more trials, or anticipating a higher load. Okay. Postage up 520. That's
Same thing.
Continue to go up.
Notices.
Okay. Psych, you mentioned a Muncie psychologist or psychiatrist. That was the increase of 4,000. Yeah, you mentioned that on the 18th. Printing's up 100. Understood. Equipment repair up 1,000. Now, in 2021, that was 8,000. But the last, since then, it's been zero through COVID. What?
Which ones did we talk about combining?
I don't remember. I don't think I have. Which two?
The repair and maintenance, both of them, they still have the same thing. I don't remember.
I think we talked about,
On the
Yeah.
bottom two?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 and 5, I think, are really the same thing,
yeah.
repair and maintenance. And
Okay.
so I think we could combine those and make,
Make it what?
well, that's the question. I mean,
What-
it-
can-
it-
can we
One's
just-
9,000.
Can we combine it and make it equipment maintenance?
yeah, we can, but the dollar figure is what we got to come up
We
with.
just need to know if it's 9,000 or 10,000.
Like you're asking for 9,000 in equipment maintenance, but the last few years you've not spent much, but then you spent 8,000 in computer repair. So I think if we just combined them and left it at 10,
Okay.
that's probably the right move.
Judge Manning, if I may interject, I was just talking to Jeff, and if I'm using the wrong terminology with your software and stuff, is it your Odyssey system that has not been upgraded since 2014? And because he said there was software that, something in the course that needs to be upgraded, and the last quote he got was about $12,000, because it's for all 3 courts.
Right.
I think it's $12,000 per court.
So I don't think that's this, but that's another issue though, because, I think we have new computers someplace. And I think it's just a matter of getting those computers installed, because the current computers that we have that are operating that system are operating slowly. So I think that 12 grand that he's talking about, I think is out of his money maybe, and that will,
And that's why,
yes.
I'm gonna go here a little bit, he's got some things, but we discussed that.
Right. Now, the other thing that he may have mentioned to you is speeding up the internet at the Justice Center.
We've got Nine Stars giving us a trial we have 250 by 250, and they're giving us a trial to see how things go. It's been turned on, my understanding, at 500.
Okay.
500, so we can see if that's going to correct that, and then we can make that decision of changing the contract to move forward.
All right.
That's going to add, obviously, something to the cost. But they're giving us, for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, that trial.
All right. So we had a training session not too long ago. There were like 20 additional laptops in the building, 2 or 3 flat screens in the building. All of them were running. I wasn't gonna. I wasn't.
You did that day.
Well, but I didn't do it publicly with everybody listening.
I don't care. I
So-
already checked
so-
it out with Jeff.
So, one particular bad day, we couldn't get on Odyssey. It would lock us out, spinning. Nothing was working. My court, Circuit 1, Circuit 3. It was the most frustrating day we've ever had.
If you're operating at the speed that she
You know,
said,
internet's great.
you should have squirrels in a cage. It'd be faster than what you're operating now.
So at 3:15 or 3:30 that day, I'm in Judge Witham's office venting further about how I can't do anything on my computer. Jeff and a young man was walking by, and this guy had something in his hand, and I'm venting, and Jeff said, well, what? And I'm like, well, blah, blah, blah. And the young guy said, is that internet-based? I said, yeah, why? He said, oh. And then he showed Jeff this screen, and Jeff was like, oh, that's why. And I said, what? Well, we got 20 laptops all streaming downstairs in the training room, along with 2 or 3 flat screens streaming, and that was eating up all of our internet.
Originally, they thought it was just going to be a Zoom that they required everybody to connect to because they had to be interactive. So you had 30 laptops, 30 people.
And so I issued an oral order then and there that there was not to be any more training in the training room unless Jeff could certify in writing to the three of us judges that we could continue to operate our courts.
And that was when we immediately started the conversation with.
Yes. So,
Okay, moving on.
yes,
We need upgrades
it was the worst.
in the worst way possible.
Long story short, I'll talk to Jeff.
Okay.
Where we need to put them, because that's a, he said that's a requirement.
Okay.
But I believe it's $12,000 per court to do the upgrade.
Okay, so we shouldn't go home and use our own internet to do tasks, which is what I did for the rest of that day. I went home in 35, 40 minutes and did more tasks at home on my internet than I did. It was awful.
Were you frustrated? Page
For the first-
16B.
For the first 7 hours I was, but that last half hour, that's pretty good.
We're on 16B. Xerox copier rentals, same. You just raised 1,000 for lodging meals of jurors. You're expecting more trials because of the backlog. Travel up just 280. That's probably gas and mileage. Education expense is up 200. CASA, GAL, same. That's a person, right? Okay, child placement, it was 0 the last 3 years, and it's 2,500. Is that just part of,
That could be an emergency situation that we have.
okay, just in case? Haven't used it, but you might.
If we use somebody that DCS won't pay for, then we don't,
You have that to draw from.
a little buffer, yep.
Questions, council? Equipment upgrade, that's not been anything the last 3 years. That's 400. Is that part of what we've been discussing? Upgrading some of, 4,000, correct. That is part of anticipated improvements. Equipment upgrade, computer's a different line usually.
Do we have any money in the go bond for IT work right now? If we're looking for every.
Well, how much did we
bit of
say?
We
money?
discussed, and there was $860,000
Right, and
or so.
I know they're waiting. Yeah.
Building analysis,
Just wonder if some of this IT work shouldn't be included as a capital improvement, so we
Maybe.
can free up general fund
that's
money.
commissioners, and maybe it might fit under that. After they get that DLZ report back on that analysis of buildings, we know that's going to probably, it could conceivably take a lot more than 800,000 to do what they recommend.
Sure.
And we have ARPA, so we have that money to draw upon for building and grounds and capital too. So it all has to kind of juggle. Okay. Judges mileage per diem went up 500. Furniture and fixtures stayed the same. Law books stayed the same. Overall, if we hadn't made any changes, it was going to be just a 7.4 increase, or if we backed out your two, the 19.5, it was going to be only a 4% increase, which doesn't even half of inflation. Questions, comments? Because I know we have the prosecutor
Didn't change
here.
anything on that page.
Everybody okay over there
I come up
keeping
with
tally?
30,268.
You got it worked out over there? The numbers? She's working it. Anything else for Susan and Kit? I called you Kim. I meant Kit. That was from the first 3 years of,
He's been
When
called a
you
little
show up
worse.
for jury duty, you can call me judge.
when I went to the OSP, I always called Judge Witham Judge. Yes, sir, no, sir, yes, Judge, no, Judge. So I know my place, and I know not to interrupt your court, because Ed Tarantino talked to me.
I've been Kit a lot longer. than I've
Okay,
been judge, so-
okay.
And you've been called much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we all have,
Oh, yeah.
just this month.
Oh, yeah, like 2 hours ago. So.
Well, that's part of it. I've got broad shoulder. Stacy, and our prayers.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
God bless. Prosecutors, page 8.
Thank you guys so much.
See ya. Have a good weekend.
It'll never happen again, I promise you.
He ordered it. Joe, Mike. Hello. Welcome. They're on page 8. Child support's on page 22. Pre-trial conversions on page 49. We're going to start on 8, move to 22, then 49. 8.
8, I didn't catch the second one.
8, 22, 49. We're going to spend most of the time on page 8, which is prosecutor. Okay. You put in,
22.
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
We're not matching on numbers, so.
okay. When we get started, they put in 3% raises like most everyone did. We back them back to zero till we find out by the 15th of August what monies we have for raises, and hopefully it'll be better than 3%. That's the goal. That's 3% is what was put in for your request, and we hope to do better than that. For today's purposes, we just back everything back to the 22 rate, and hopefully we can do better. They're just reconciling the last hearing on numbers. So I will go on, but we won't go beyond. Okay, the deputy prosecuting attorney, we'll keep the same for now. Investigator, we'll keep the same for now. Office manager courthouse, we'll keep the same for now. Legal secretary, we'll keep the same for now. Legal secretary, Superior Court 2, we'll keep the same for now. Longevity, you kept the same, 4,800, so apparently no change there. Deputy prosecutor Bell, we'll keep the same for now. Legal secretary, the same. Okay. No, nothing. We're on, no.
Well, he rolled back
We're
salary.
rolled back salaries. No, we're just now out of personnel. We're on 2000.01. Office supplies, you had nothing the last 3 years, and it went to 5,000, so we do need just an explanation. Office supplies had been zero the last 3 years, and you asked for 5,000.
No, actually, for the last 10 years, I've asked for $5,000, and every time I come to the budget session, you zero out everything else. So
Okay.
everything in this would be the same as I've done for the last 10 years.
Okay.
You have just come back and told me, thanks, but no thanks, and zeroed it all out, and you've only paid salaries for the 10 years I've been prosecutor. We can make this short. I just assume you're going to do the same thing this year as you've done for the last 10 years, and I don't really want to be here forever. So if you guys just want to zero out the rest, I'll continue to use pretrial diversion money for everything.
Has that
That's
worked?
what I've been doing now. And if one year when Henry County hits the lottery and I'm long gone from the prosecutor's office, you guys can start, you or whoever comes after you, maybe can start funding some of the other lines in this budget that have
Well,
been funded.
Okay, let me ask, has that worked, or are you underfunded, or have you gone in the red having done that?
No, I mean, someday if the pretrial diversion money ever goes into, gets really low, then I'll have to come back and ask.
Okay.
There was a time where that did happen. I paid some salary, or paid Michael's salary out of it for 3 years, and we went from roughly 100,000 down to like 30,000. And so then the county council did start to pay all of his salary again. We were able to build it back up, and I think we're around 100,000.
Okay, for 2022, how's it look this year or last year? Has it been able to pay everything with pretrial? Okay. But he wants it short, so I guess he's saying he knows.
I think
we're
you do a
gonna
great
zero
job,
out.
and I appreciate all those things you've paid out of there, because that is definitely something that we can shift to utilize. And I know when I did my crunching numbers for raises, since we'd already talked in the work session, that I'd already crunched those, so I appreciate you doing that.
My real question is I say this every year, but in the 4D budget, don't touch that, leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
No.
Other than rolling back the salaries, I understand what you're saying there, but for the extra numbers I have for the supplies, those other things, leave those the same, please, because they've been the same for 10 years. They need to remain the same, so we won't
Okay.
follow the federal guide.
No, absolutely, and we appreciate it, so.
So the child support, we're going to roll back to zero until we find out raises. And I already mentioned we hope to be able to give more than 3%. And the other page was 40 what? What'd I say, 40 what? 7? 49. Okay.
But I'm lost. Did we zero all that out?
Yes,
That's what I heard.
so we're gonna zero everything out.
I just was making your life easier. I figured
I know.
rather than go through the whole lines and tell me you're going to cut it, I just say go ahead and do it so we can.
Well, it sounds like it's been the case for years. This is our third year. fourth year. Okay.
Was that 29,520 by zeroing out those line items, the total?
I did not total it, so.
I assume Debbie and Bobby's zeroed out. What was the savings Kyle was asking by zeroing every?
Was that also?
That's,
probation
that goes to a
reports?
lot of raises,
Was
though, so
that
thank you.
just prosecution?
That goes,
I didn't catch the miscellaneous down there as well.
I have two questions on the 2502. The miscellaneous expense of 19,000, is that,
Are you talking about the criminal, are you talking, is that the criminal budget?
is that
Or
the one I'm
that's
not supposed to touch?
pretrial diversion, right?
that's pretrial
Pretrial-
diversion.
Is that the one
Oh,
I'm
no,
not
pretrial
supposed to
don't
touch?
touch that.
Yeah, we're,
That's the one I'm not
That's-
supposed to
no,
touch?
we're not,
non-tax,
That's not ours
non-general
to
fund money.
no, so
So
we
we're
don't,
done then?
we don't even need to look at that. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the 4D incentive fund,
Right, we don't do this one.
pretrial, please don't touch, 'cause
Sorry.
that's not general.
The 4D has a little bit of salaries in it, though, doesn't it? Doesn't not every?
What
Okay.
page is 4D?
What's-
22.
That's shot for, the 4D is the incentive fund. It's the 8999, right? Oh, 8999.
We have a page. What page
40?
is 4D? Because I don't find
Calling
it.
it 4D, not 40.
Oh, page before, 48. So we're looking at 48, then 49.
Yeah, and we don't touch
4D,
that
we
either.
don't touch.
48 and 49, we don't touch. We are just going to roll back the salaries and the child support until we figure out the raises, which is page 22.
Right.
How much was that, Debbie?
And you're going to be okay, given if everything stays the same with, okay, pretrial. Okay,
Pretrial money's there, I just suspended it, it's gone, it's gone.
okay.
Is that how many it is? It's a little less than 5 minutes now.
He has the days. Rick McCorkle has the days. Every meeting.
I saw him this morning, I meant to ask him, but I think
He'll tell you.
That means it's 148 days for you to get on the hot seat now. Works both ways.
Would you get a blue ribbon on? A blue ribbon? The state, 4-H? Congratulations. So you have to make it fresh for the day of judging. Well, yeah.
Jamie and everyone were up, and Jamie's like, we're only making 2 batches, and we're gonna be done by 10 o'clock.
I was in 4-H 10 years. I think it's a maximum, isn't it? But I wasn't in livestock. I was in all the displays, electricity, wildlife, photography. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You as well, thank you.
You too. Thank you for all you do over there. Planning Commission is next, and it's page 14.
Private practice, yeah. Oh, really? Did they used to go regularly? Okay. Hmm.
Now that we've expanded.
Right. That's always sad, isn't it? Right. Right. Same. Yeah, that happened at our old church, and we went to more than one service, and,
We don't have 2 services
okay,
now that we're in the new sanctuary.
Right.
We have the morning, but it's still,
it's big.
you know, they did a thing, last winter where we moved up the Sunday school classes around.
Okay.
So you could pick a topic, you know,
Right.
and wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up in a Sunday school class with my grandson Luke
Uh-huh.
and
Rather than just separated by
Yeah,
age or
instead-
something.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because right now we're in the old people,
Right. That is neat.
age group. But yeah, it was such a, Nate Lamont's two daughters were
Okay.
in my class. And there were some that were in my other class that were in it. But it was really nice to have a young person's view.
Drum roll,
You know,
total savings to date.
I had,
Say it slower. Three.
for 28, what?
Okay.
428 what? 406 so far? How much do we have to give raises? Did we estimate?
We're gonna need at least 300,000, I think.
What's Baker Tilly we're looking at?
Yeah.
900.
We need the 600 to balance and the 300 for raises.
Commissioners coming up.
and the commissioners are gonna be big.
That doesn't count your 333 you had found earlier, does it?
And then another 300.
About the shifting
No, it doesn't.
or the
Okay, so there's a
246 on Meridian.
So if you wanna go to the commissioners, hey,
Gonna have to. Hey, Chad, how much of that includes what we moved to jail lit or none? It does not include. It does. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have a big one in the commissioners. There's 260.
13B?
This is on 13B.
3019 is that what you're looking at?
Should be 272.
Well, if you move that to the CCD, it just moves it from one place to another. I know.
So we can't pay
okay.
bonuses out of
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, as long as it doesn't affect
I
the
wouldn't
general.
yet.
I just, I mean,
but
I'm
it's a
all for,
potential.
I'm all for giving raises, I'll just put it out there. I don't wanna take anything from our general fund or raise taxes.
well, and that's where we're trying to shift the general fund, so give or take, we've already come up with over 800,000.
So with this, with the new sheet, we were short 611,000.
And we're still waiting for paying to do this.
So with Meridian Health, we're better than balanced. With Meridian Health, we're better than balanced. And then we go from there. There's other things, other things we move.
Well, you know they're not marking it. They're not gonna mark it.
Legal services, they budgeted the same as what they have in years past.
Right.
So that's going to drastically drop.
Yeah.
So like on the bottom here, like
a question for you. I think you know the answer to. When you did your raise proposal, did you separate out what can come out of the jail safety lit from what can't? What can't? The dollar amount. You know the dollar amount of your raise proposal that can't come from the two lits, because that's what we need from the general fund. I don't have a printout of it. Because our jail lit went way up on this one, if that's right.
It did.
So that'll help
So
us.
safety lit, we moved it, we kept this in the jail lit, so we also had to add these things. So we actually net lost in the jail lit, so we still have cushion in the jail lit, or the safety lit. The jail lit, we decided to add an additional 35,000 more than I had recommended.
And
So
we have even more now.
we have even more now. And the safety lit went up as well too.
Where you actually
So I did not remove the
cost?
Meridian services.
That's what I wanted to.
Can you make copies of those, Chad? I
I
couldn't
can,
print it out.
now that we have shared it publicly, I can. I only met with Susan and Ken and the people without a quorum on my recommendation.
I think this is very reasonable. We might be able to do more.
We might be able to.
Because, you know, sheriff, jail, 911, that can all come from jail and safety lit.
Yeah, and see, these, I think we can cushion and find it within
Within their
budget.
own fund. So this is our hard
Now,
number, but
I
I think
will
we're
tell you,
gonna be able
Kenan
to do it.
mentioned 3% for the highway. Mine does not have 3% for the highway. Because I used it more based on the comparisons, and they are already at or above low market rate in the highway department. So their raise was, so what I did was, at or above got $500, 0 to 5% got 1,000, 5% to 10% got 1,500, and anything over 10 got 2,500. Sheriff's Department got 3,000, and that was pretty much what my recommendation was in raises. I based it on percentages of low market. So I did, whereas I think Kenan's came up with one that was more percentage based, because I was trying to go more based on market rate. So that you had a part of the market rate.
What did we come up with last year in the street department of 3 and 3?
We didn't do it, we just did the one year, yeah. We didn't do it extended.
This is another 200 page plus. We'll easily cover anything that you pay from it. And so we just need to, I think we could get more than that for
With the
general.
3,000, it will get them a tad above, but you need to remember, they are union, so they have building raises every year. So when they get their raise this year, they'll go up, but they will only be like less than $1,000 above us now, where they're almost $3,000 above us. So, yeah. That's what I came up with. Again, we all have to vote. That's just my one man's opinion.
I think that
Yeah. Okay, I thought it was 3%, you said. Okay. Then it wasn't far off from mine. I did 5, or those that were at or above market value.
But did you guys notice when we were talking to Susan, they're finally starting, I think we've tried to say it a lot of different ways, but maybe the message is every dollar you give back goes back to raises. And if we had just said it more simply, I think maybe we said it too complicated.
Well, and that's why I tried to say it the way I said it.
Every dollar you give us goes directly back. That's not right. And maybe next year they'll offer, if there is any they offer up, it goes directly back.
But
Well, I think in our 4 years, the mentality of use it or lose it has changed.
Maybe.
Oh, I think it has.
Yeah.
I think it has.
Yeah.
So you can't make a copy of that? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, it's okay. Well, when I could not print Kenan's out, because I attempted to, and it wouldn't print.
So I get to keep it?
Oh, wait a minute, maybe you did. I think I have it.
Okay.
is Kennan's, right? Yeah, yeah, but I couldn't print it. I would have used like 100 sheets of paper because each line was on one piece of paper. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it started printing and I'm like, no, don't use all my paper.
Did I tell you my little 10-year-old was diagnosed with celiac?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But it was about 3 months ago, and we're seeing him get so much healthier. It's been really impressive. But I'm just talking with my sister. She's going to have the kids over tomorrow. Like, we're checking ingredients to make sure she knows how to do everything.
So, is it hard to, is the diet hard?
The hard part is contamination, not diet.
Oh, really?
You know, you can't, even if something doesn't have gluten, if it was manufactured in shared equipment, not even that is bad for celiac. That's hard. We've been gluten-free for that.
So how did you find out? What was going on?
Dad he has always had these severe yeasting allergies, and he has a little asthma on the soccer field. His stomach hurts sometimes, so I followed up with a natural doctor, and I just said to her, like, I'm just curious if there's something that's making him, inflamed.
Thank you,
or
hon.
thank you. Inflamed or not well. And so she ran this full allergy panel. I didn't know it included a celiac panel, and it did. It was very positive. And the only thing he's allergic to is gluten. No other food allergies, no other environmental allergies, but they do like an overall inflammation. I think it was like an IgE it's supposed to be under 90 for kids, and his was 240.
Oh my
No wonder he
goodness.
doesn't always feel
Yeah.
So it's funny, like he's a fierce athlete, but then he will kind of crash in the past.
Now, how old is he
He's
now?
10 now. I'm glad we found out before he went through puberty. Like, he thinks he could have missed some growth. I don't know. But
But even at 10, you think,
yeah, he's always gained weight really slowly. He's thinner than our other kids, but he's never gone through that. I talked to another mom who's like, my kid lost 10 pounds. He started vomiting every night. And I was like, that's definitely not our experience.
see, when Jenny was little, oh my gosh. Well, Derek, my first child, my older boy, he was lactose intolerant. We knew that right away. But with Jenny, she had so many different symptoms that they kept ruling out. So we thought so that, oh my gosh, she'd get sick, she couldn't lose weight, but that didn't turn out either. So then they said it was, they were considering it was cirrhosis, not cirrhosis of the liver, but, and I forget what they said now. But anyway, it ended up being lactose intolerance, but it was severe. I mean, to the
Chad,
point
did you
where
get-
I had to make sure no dairy product was in anything. Absolutely nothing, because she would get very sick and run a fever, and I would always know when she started school. Yeah, she would be sick. Sick. When she started school.
It's like, I didn't even have
she
a
would
beer
come
at
home
lunch.
from
It's a
school.
little wiggly to me.
Oh, there's beer? There's beer for lunch?
She would come home from school and just immediately want to lie down. She'd be all flushed and headache and fever. And I knew they gave her milk. Even though, or something.
not like a drink of milk, but it was in it.
And even though I, you send all this stuff in,
It's hard.
absolutely
You're right.
no
Like, he's so
it was so different from what Derek knew. Effective.
Pardon me?
I mean, from the,
No, I haven't flown for a couple of weeks.
it's a new one.
Yep.
That
Probably have,
Jenny
I
was
think I
totally different.
have to go down to Louisville and Orlando on Sunday.
Fibrosis that was not
Quickie trip.
cystic
Down and back.
fibrosis of the liver is what they thought she had. And it's like, I know. Yeah. Yeah, right. And we finally
Yeah,
figured it out.
yeah.
But only because she,
Should t-
I mean, she had to stand with
I'll take
Page 14.
about 3.
Welcome, Tom Green. Page 14. You'll have to use the mic and be about 3 inches from it, because we are live streaming and there are people listening.
Yes.
Welcome. We're almost on time. Zoning administrator, you gave yourself a 3.8%. Over the next 15 minutes, we want defense of why you did that. No, I'm kidding. We're going to back everything back to zero, the 2022 for now, and by the
Sure.
15th, we're going to find out how much money there are for raises.
Yep.
So we're going to keep it to 42,671 for now, but we did that with all departments. Board members. Now, is that just PC board or is that BZA as well?
It's both.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you increased to $2,250. Do you anticipate there being more meetings and more?
Yes, we were short on meetings for the last year. Some of it was left over from COVID things because some things had slowed down, but we've actually seen that pick back up.
Okay.
Make sure you really get into the mic, because they've got to be able to hear you out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
You're very
Yep.
muffled.
Okay, now, we have 9 PC members. They get $50 per meeting. Most we ever meet, I think it's safe to say, is 12. That's if we got back to one per month.
Right.
That's 5,400. So is the additional 900 for BZA?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you anticipate some BZA meetings?
we do. And we've been short members as well, so people didn't get paid because we didn't have people to pay. So we're
Okay.
back up to full boards on both boards now.
Okay. Am I the one that needs to notify Kevin Brown that he got reappointed? Because I have not.
Okay, yeah, you should.
Okay.
Yep.
That would be. I'll need to find out, because unless he was listening that night, I invited him to the meeting, but he may not know officially. Okay. Longevity, you took out because you're new.
Yep.
Data technician, you actually lowered $181.
I didn't intend to do that.
Okay. Well, we're going to zero it out and make it 31,779, same as this year, until we find out about
Yep.
raises.
Yep.
Office supplies, you just raised $25. No one has any qualms with that, do they? Office supplies. That inflation, most people have been raising it, probably more than you have. Postage up 25, so you believe that's going to be sufficient?
I hope so. I had to move money this year, but it's hard to tell. Depends on how much compliance action we take and how many meetings we have and how many people need to be notified for different meetings. Postage is up a lot, as you know.
One thing, when Tom was hired, the PC board said we wanted compliance and going out and actually finding people who are snubbing their nose at our zoning rules, trash everywhere, grass 10 feet high, that you can go out and cite people and give them warnings, and then it goes to a lawyer, and then we can file against them, and there's a penalty fee or whatever you call it. And he's been doing that. So postage, travel, you went up 1,000. Are you planning on going to conferences and
I am.
things? and
There are some things I'd
training?
like to go to on that. Indianapolis, Bloomington, South Bend seems to be where they usually have those things. I'd like to get the floodplain certification.
52 is his budget? Okay, thank you. Repairs and maintenance, you kept the same. Legal services went up. The antivirus?
Okay.
Commissioners will pick that up, so we can take
All
out
right,
that
because
number.
there was talk about maybe putting that separately, but, okay. All right.
I didn't know that was the antivirus, but yeah, this year and next year, they'll take care of it.
Okay.
Probably this forward. Yeah, the 3,000.04 repairs and maintenance, zero that out, so we, minus 90. Sean Rao was our attorney and still will be, I think. Has that not been in the budget in the past?
It's in his enforcement fund, 4202.
Is that
And
the
that's what,
page
so is
52?
travel and some other things, so that's what I'm asking for the balance in that fund, because
Okay.
it looks like he's moved some of those things down from that fund and put them back into the general fund.
Is that the page 52?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Can you repeat that, Bobby? Thank you.
And what does that represent?
The balance to his enforcement fund.
That's the balance of Fund 52.
Part of what we're trying to do is, if there's duplication, then we cut it because there's duplication, unnecessary duplication, that all go to county raises. So we're looking at that to give raises. But we don't want to cut you that, we don't want to cut muscle, but we do want to cut fat.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
No, it's 839.
Yeah, you have 3,000 in legal services on the enforcement, but that went down from 6, so you have a grand total of the same amount.
So was there a reason you cut that budget in that fund this year?
It just didn't appear to, that it might not have, I don't know that that's where it should have been. So we didn't really use it, I don't think.
So Chad, are you suggesting that we move some of these expenses then over to this enforcement fund?
Yeah, I mean, that's where historically they have been, and he has a very healthy budget. Last year he only budgeted 12,000 and spent 4,400 out of this fund.
How much comes in every year? How much came in last year? Yeah.
I'd have to go look.
Okay.
Well,
We could move potentially everything, office supplies, postage, all that.
Well, see, if you look, he reduced the travel by 1,000 from last year and only put 1,000 in the fund and then 1,000 in the general fund instead of keeping 2 in the enforcement fund.
we're trying to consolidate the two
You know, with.
and save if we can. Well, actually, your grand total of legal services is still 6,000.
Yeah.
But you've split it 3,000 and 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what, I can tell you, last year, we didn't have nearly the number of meetings. And so the the attorney fee would be down over what's anticipated. 'Cause I know we've got some really big cases coming up.
That's right, we do have some bigger cases coming up. Some of the area probably be using more of the legal and the enforcement side than we were before.
I mean, so we could move all of these expenses other than salaries.
Microphone.
Sorry. We could move all of the expenses other than salaries without maybe even decreasing the balance on that fund.
That amount would pay for everything other than salary.
Would. And then we can look at it next year, make sure we're not using that fund too heavily.
Yeah, because there's already, so here's the question, do we even need to move it because there's 1,000 for supplies in the fund, and there's only $775 budgeted, and so far total this year between the two, he spent 140. I mean, does he really need the 775 when there's 1,000 in there? I mean, this year, according to this, they've spent nothing in legal between the two funds.
He's not invoiced, that's
Yeah,
right.
And travel, he's got 1,000 in both, and
But he
so
had
far this
2,000 this
year,
year. Yeah.
he had 2,000 in the fund last year, and he reduced it by 1,000 and put 1,000 of it in the general, but he's only spent $200 or $140.
He
Well-
doesn't have postage yet as a line.
He does
item,
not
but we
have
could move it.
postage.
Okay, I mean, we could create it there.
Open to suggestions, council.
Legal services for sure.
Yeah, we didn't, Sean didn't,
True.
Yep.
yeah, you could.
You're getting a whiplash.
Yeah.
We're making sausage as usual.
I like moving it if there's,
Moving it
How do you
to
feel about
enforcement. Moving it to enforcement.
Okay, you want to go down, do you
Some of it.
like moving everything?
I would. But how does Tom feel about that?
I will say that we will have more meetings and we will have more legal, and he's not invoiced yet. I wouldn't cut too much.
That's right, we have. We will have.
I wouldn't slice it in half. And I'll be coming back asking for more. Travel, you are going to go to more places than in the past, and you've just started this year.
That money comes from, I just know it doesn't come.
Yeah, there's been times I've wanted to go and do things, but haven't been able to because I tried to catch up.
I don't dislike Susan's the comment. The only thing I would further say is that, to Kennan's point, if we take it out of the fund, out of the general fund, then I'd say we move the legal back to 6,000 and the enforcement fund, and, you know, we make those alterations.
Okay, start with the recommendations.
Okay.
Start with supplies at the top of the enforcement fund.
I personally think we could apply supplies in the general fund. I think we could zero it out and leave 1,000 in the enforcement fund.
If he's gonna pay postage out of that too, let's give him
Well-
the 1,500, because there's not a postage line item.
Okay, so you want to zero out the office supplies in the general and postage
Yeah.
Okay.
in the general, and then then add 500 to the enforcement fund
Yeah.
for supplies? I'm good with that.
And to be clear, the enforcement fund can be used for anything within your office that you need, not just the enforcement of violations and the furtherance of.
Well, I think it's anything that has to do with enforcement. If it's postage used for enforcement reasons or whatever, I think we can use anything out of that according to the guidelines of the fund.
Okay. I just don't want to get into a position where it's,
If we need to send a registered letter to somebody that's an enforcement issue, it should come out of that. If we're sending them
Yeah,
a registered
it's-
letter for notification of a meeting,
As an attorney, I bet you could make a good argument that everything's enforcement when it comes to the PC.
that's what I.
you probably
Probably could.
Yeah.
Because our PC meetings are basically changing
You're
the
enforcing
zoning.
the zoning and ordinances.
Enforcing the zoning
You can.
ordinances.
You can. So.
I agree with
we-
that
We have very loose guidelines as to what actually comes out
I
of that.
think it's a.
Our
I think
attorney
it's been a
agrees with
very-
Chad.
I just want to make sure we're not running into an issue with like the corner section fund.
Oh,
thing
yeah.
from a couple
Surveyor
years
has very
ago.
specific
Yeah.
do's and don'ts
That's
on
right.
particular
Yeah.
funds. I don't think yours.
No, it's
I think
not
it's a
that.
strong case.
He just-
It's not that, it's not that
Okay.
specific.
Yeah. Okay, what was your,
So can we start, okay, zero that out?
So on the general,
2001, did you
we zeroed out 2001 and 3001. We're at travel. Do we zero that out of the general fund
And then we need to
and
raise the enforcement fund.
raise the enforcement fund to
Oh, no, sorry, I was
to-
reading it wrong.
to 2,000?
It's probably, well, I was reading it wrong. I don't care if we raise it to 2,000, but 1,000 might be enough, but they've only used 100.
Do you think 1,000 will be enough, Tom?
1,000 travel, 1,500?
Well, with the increases in fuel costs,
Okay.
that's,
Okay, I'm
depends
okay
on
with
what I
taking it
manage to
to,
get to go to.
I'm okay with taking it back to the 2,000 and zeroing it out. We already zeroed out 3,000.04 in the general. 3,000.05, we zeroed out of the general and increased 3,000 in the enforcement fund. That's the legal. So that takes it back to 3,000. Advertising and
Mayor's
Good.
Association and training.
Association and trainings in both.
Yeah, advertising, what do you want to do with advertising, Susan? $225.
You have to advertise everything in the paper, don't you?
We could leave it or create another line item in the enforcement fund. It doesn't matter to me. What do you guys want to do?
Okay, Bobby says she can create a line, so I'd say we zero it out of the general and we add a line. So we're gonna add $225 in advertising to the enforcement fund.
And then we can zero out association and training
Yes, let's just zero that out.
and leave it at 2,000 on the enforcement fund.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm good with that.
There, someone else just got a raise. Yay!
Do you know what happened?
Pardon me?
Do you know what just happened?
Yeah.
Zeroed them
Okay.
all
Yeah.
on the first page. We did. We did.
I was trying to keep up. I think I do.
I think I do. Yeah, I'm like you. I think I got it.
Get with Bobby or Debbie if you haven't kept track of all the changes. Ned, it hasn't done a whole lot. It saved a little bit for raises for everybody, including your department, but I don't think we took anything away that's going to be harmful, or you're not,
I don't
come back for
think
an
so.
additional appropriation, but I don't think it's probably going to be needed.
Yeah, I don't think so.
1,500, okay, plus 3,000.
If we do, it'll be in legal areas. I know we have several things right now that when we get
As long as
John's
Debbie and
bills.
Bobby have all those changes, we're probably good. Anybody, council have any questions?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before when we had our last meeting together. Said the permits were up 7% this year.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then you were maybe looking into the possibility of seeing if there were any increases that we could do in any of our permitting fees. Because you said sometimes some of the bigger corporations or builders thought it was almost not laughable, but, oh yeah, heck, we'll pay that in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen any other numbers or gotten any other county numbers from a comparison standpoint?
Oh, not in enough detail. Our format for our fees are different than surrounding counties.
They're lower, aren't they?
They're lower, but they're also, the way they figure their fees is a little bit differently. They've come up with some rather simplified systems. We have a number of different fees, and they have
What'd you guys
fewer fees, but it might, one fee
That's what I
group
got.
might cover more things.
Are you going to be proposing an increase to be more compatible with surrounding counties in the future?
To some extent, it depends on which ones. I don't want to really increase fees very much for commercial ventures that are looking to come into the community, because they
Don't want
bring
to
in.
discourage them and head them off to some other county?
Yeah, and so the ones that are right on the edge, that we can lure across that county line.
What about
I want
violations?
it to be more.
Penalties for violations. Are we in sync with other counties, or are we lower?
We're about the same for
Okay.
most. What happens is other counties have more things that they penalize for. We have things that you may be in violation, but they are not a violation that falls under our code for enforcement with a fine. It's you can't do that.
Okay.
Is it in the?
So
general fund, or is
that needs to be changed a little
So
bit.
no teeth behind the slap
And,
on the
and
wrist?
we've had that discussion.
Maybe
we
run
have.
that back by,
A lot
we
of
may
our
need to
stuff
talk about
has
that
no
when they're here
teeth.
next Wednesday.
There's a couple of big cases coming up. What's their date of our meeting?
18th.
18th. We're looking at 3 new subdivisions in Henry County. We talked about housing shortage, 3 new subdivisions coming before the PC, and a name brand hotel coming to Henry County under the PC.
Yeah, and
And the preliminary, I think, is what we're looking at on the 18th.
Boar's Head has a big expansion. The permit for that has not come through, but it could any day.
And that's come through the council.
Yeah.
Already.
And it's, and there's a party interested in a development down at the Hartley Truck Facility.
What's good that our permitting's coming up, because for years it was stagnant.
Yeah.
I remember like 15 years ago, there was like 2 housing permits for the whole county of new houses or buildings going in.
Yeah.
And it certainly have improved since then.
And last year was a big year for housing permits. And this year is a little down a little bit, but still going. Last month was really the first. Last month, I think we only had 1 permit for a new house. And usually it's 3 or 4. For the last year, it's been 3 or 4 a month.
Any questions for Tom? Council, any questions for Tom before we excuse him? Having heard none, there's a sidebar going on.
Hope to be talking to you personally soon
Well, you will.
about my own house.
That'd be nice.
And a new,
Another housing permit.
You gonna build a new place? You gonna build a new place?
Well, like I told Susan, my
if we
goal
can
is
afford it.
to
I said, sweetheart, let's just get a
not
pool.
decrease the balance. I don't want to decrease the balance of.
Priorities, pool, roof over our head with a kitchen.
The amount of pools that were doing is just nuts. It's crazy.
Number of pools going in,
Yeah, I got one yesterday, $164,000 pool.
that's not an above ground. That's an in ground.
It is.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of pools.
Okay, when you say there's enough in
We've got an above. Yeah.
The pool industry loves global warming.
Yeah, well, in fact, people can't afford to go on vacation, so they do their R&R stuff in their home.
That's done a lot
that
for the
should
pools.
stay.
Yeah.
Two million change.
Being stuck at home for a couple of years and then, well, for a year.
Well, and I think a lot of them have found out that it actually gives them more
As long as the
flexibility in
general
their life.
balance does not
Instead of
go
planning all
down,
year,
so
where
we
we're gonna
raise
go
it,
away on
I'm okay.
vacation. They stay at
If
home.
if it goes
and
down
actually
120,
do
I'll
more
say no.
things, and they might take a quick weekend somewhere instead of being gone for a week or two.
By the cuts we've made. Except that money isn't actually there.
It's the best estimate of what's coming in. I mean, it's the only way we can do it.
I don't know how many
Otherwise, we have to.
gallons of
Counting
gas you
the
got to
revenue,
buy
the
for
revenue that is
$130,000
expected.
pool.
See, I'm not
Baker
even looking
Tilly
at this
is pretty
balance. See, right
conservative
here's
with
our
their
balance,
estimates.
is 2,765,000.
Well,
If we just stop the budget right now, this
I do know that over the years,
2,765,000 over here
people
looks
who
like
buy,
3 million.
there are a lot of
Because
in-ground
we've already
pools
more than
around
balanced our income.
that you wouldn't know are there
So much
because
better
they're
than
covered up
last
with
year.
dirt. People
I
buy an
agree,
in-ground
except
pool,
I do not want
it costs a lot, and while it's
to
new,
go
it's
down
fine.
by giving me.
Then, depending on what kind of pool.
And I
they put
realize,
in,
yeah,
if they
it
put
will,
one that
it
has a
will,
liner,
because that money's not in there till
now
the
it's time
revenue
for a new
comes
liner
in.
10 years from now.
And we don't know that that
We
revenue
don't
is
pay the entire
guaranteed.
year up front either.
I know, but you,
Yeah.
Once we
Yeah.
get this, once we get this from the.
Oh, yeah,
DOJ,
yeah. And the bigger it is, the bigger, more expensive it is. If you're doing
I'm just saying, you
fiberglass
can't
pools,
guarantee the revenue is gonna be what they
The reason, it
okay,
is,
there's
because the reason you can
maintenance
say that
associated. It's
is
worth
because they don't
put in to
base
begin
on
with,
last
but
year's taxes.
well, a lot of pools get
I know.
filled in after about 10 or 12
but
years.
during the
People go, I'm not
recession,
messing around with
how many
this.
people do you think are gonna be paying their taxes?
They do.
If they've gotta buy food
Yeah.
and pay rent?
I get it, but what
Yep.
I'm saying is, they're not basing
Yep.
on, this is not based
But,
on.
and the above ground pools that people are building now.
People aren't working
there's some
there, they're
really
paying
nice
income
above
tax
ground
on it.
pools. And if you decide you really don't want it, it's a lot easier to get rid of it.
Not what they
I
do,
know,
what they're
I
making
know,
today.
but you
So
still gotta
we're
have it
gonna-
coming in.
Yes, but it's gonna, it's already came, the state has it sitting in a paper.
I have a quick question.
They send it out.
Sure they do.
They do. Don't you know how many billions of dollars they're
Is
sending
what?
out there?
Okay, just
It's
checking.
supposed to be sitting in a.
Steve just put a stop to the, because
Until my money
they got
is
food
in
and beverage
my
money.
bank,
Well, the contract says that with the MOU that they can't do anything without commissioner's position, and they haven't gotten any building permits or any drainage studies or anything.
We have to budget ahead.
So it's got kind of put,
save the money.
correct,
and
I
then
just
when
wanted to
got
make sure that there was no,
Even the
But you
some
don't have to
exception.
spend it if you
Expo Center,
uh-huh, correct.
it came time to renew their permit. I said,
Oh, I know,
I give
I
you,
know. I'm
we
just
could
talking
give you 6 months grace like we did everybody else during COVID. At the end of 6 months, you're not exempt from that.
to
The
give,
only people that are
if we can do
still have to go through inspection.
Oh, you still have to do it, you still have to get the permit, you just don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But
we won't lower the
Saddle
balance.
they're not.
Unless we end up giving, I don't know what, Hennon's number is much larger than mine.
I'd like it to be larger.
Hennon's number is 100.
Well,
See,
I mean, I would love for everybody to make more money. But
I think we might be able to.
you do realize because
I don't
even
know,
if
I
you
haven't
don't raise
looked.
taxes, the government
I
is.
don't know.
So
I'm
this will be
getting,
paying more taxes, so their prices
so,
will still
yeah.
go up, so. It'll be like they don't do
There
it.
are plans to
But I tried to do it on the money.
superintendents.
And I like what you did, and I just,
Just guarantee to me that the
I will tell you,
general fund
I'll look
will
you straight in the
not
eyes,
go
if this won't do
down.
it or this will do it, I'll be honest with you. You know me, I'm a straight shooter.
I just
I'll
think
tell
And
you
the
that,
balance will not go down.
Because last year we did lower it. We lowered it by like 20,000.
Yeah, see, I don't wanna do that.
but we kind of got in the weeds and ended up.
You show me
Well, the
in
reason,
writing.
the reason we had to is because the spreadsheets were off.
Yeah, we,
And
as
when
we
got
reconciled
into
the
final
spreadsheets.
reconciliations, we were off by 20.
We were off, yeah.
And that's why we had to. But
If
we had
you
to
can
plan to.
guarantee me,
I can't, I'm not gonna bet my farm on it.
Do you ever find
come
I
on,
know.
Chad.
I'll bet Susan's farm on it then.
So when you guys,
Well, just,
when the park talked to you guys and she wanted that $5,000 for a copier, I just wanted you guys to know they just bought a brand new one in 2018 for 5,300 copies.
She says it's falling apart, it's end of life, and they can't even get parts for it.
2018, I wish I had a copier that was.
I understand that that is exactly what Casey said here and told us.
Somebody's really abusing it then, because I've never bought a copier less than, what, 4 years old, 4 years old, because I get them cheaper, they're
Well, see, and that's what Bobby had her told her to go to Weber, and get, that's one of the reasons she's coming back.
She seemed willing, I mean, she
But,
received it well.
yes,
I'll say, Kayla said it, there wasn't anything wrong with it in February, that it was a very nice collar copier. My guess is they're wanting another one for another office.
Casey from the park. Park.
But it's on our.
Yeah, that's what she told us on Wednesday was that it was end of life. It was, they couldn't even get parts for it. They